So it's worth pointing out that this part of the video was recorded right at the very end, and I've delayed uploading this video in its entirety for a number of reasons. There will be a follow-on video where I talk about some of the problems I encountered, but you know, I want to be clear right from the start, these are really good. These boards are really good, no problems at all for the most part. I think all the people that have received these, apart from me, have had no issues, so it's just typical. I had some issues. I'm not going to cover them in this video. I'll talk about them later. But yeah, rest assured that they're very well made. The quality is exceptional. The support from these guys, you know, the Neo SD team is just phenomenal. You know, people at TERRAONION. Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, this time I'm looking at a flash card here for a Neo Geo. This one's for the MVS. Now, this came out of the blue. This was just totally unexpected. I think the company behind this TERRAONION posted, or someone posted a link to a review on the Neo Geo forum about a month ago now, and it just that review just came out, and it's like it just took everyone by surprise, because Darksoft have been working on a flash card for the Neo Geo, probably for most of the year actually. It probably started last year. Some progress has been made there, but yeah, they're certainly taking a while to complete that, perhaps because they're working on other things. But in the meantime, like I say, this just sprung from nowhere. No one even knew this project was going on. And not only, like I said, this, you know, was this sort of reviewed a month ago. I'll post a link up there actually to the website that did it. Yeah, so it came out of the blue, but it's much more than what any of us kind of anticipated, really. Some of the games for the Neo Geo MVS have got protection, and the protection, you know, used sort of custom ASICs and things on the you know, the original MVS boards there to decrypt the data. Certainly some of the newer titles, the larger megabit counts and things like Metal Slug 5 and some of the King of Fighters games, I think. Metal Slug X, I think, had some encryption or something on it as well. So, but this replicates, this handles, or simulates, not really emulates, but you know, in a hardware level, it's you know, it's got hardware representation. Presumably at the CERN FPGA there's an awful lot of pins on that chip, that lattice, but it's, you know, it's replicated. That functionality is replicated precisely. Now, Raz was the first to get hold of a copy of one of these boards from TERRAONION, and I'll post some links again down in the, you know, the description below. But yeah, it was Razula got hold of one of these first, and he's sort of a subject matter expert really when it comes to the Neo Geo, having written the UniBIOS and done all sorts of different projects and supported various projects in the past on the Neo Geo. So yeah, he spent a lot of time looking at the you know, how capable this cart was, and how accurate it was, and he came to the conclusion very quickly that it was absolutely spot on. I think he was pretty impressed, to be fair. So you know, that set a good level of confidence really that these were a good product. As soon as he got one of those boards and said, yeah, it works, that was it. I was straight on the pre-order list. I think I was like, I must have been one of the first people to buy it, I think. Because there was a lot of apprehension. Because the other thing is, because this sprung out of the blue, you know, no one had heard about this. You know, typically with a project like this, you'll hear about it, you know, a year in advance or 2 years in advance, as the developers, you know, will sort of, you know, let you know about their upcoming products and the progress they're making. But with TERRAONION, they just, you know, they were just like covert. They were stealth. It was just like, bang, here you go. Here's a complete finished product out of the blue. So yeah, there was apprehension there. Is it a real product? Now they did post lots of videos early on and you know, photos and zoom up, you know, close-ups of the board here, and as you can see, you know, it was obvious to me fairly early on that this was genuine, and if it wasn't, it was a very good fake, because it had all the right components and things on both boards. You know, you could fake something like this, but you know, and obviously it's not. I've been playing with this, it's not. Trust me. So I was having a quick look at the boards here. As you can see, we've got some programming connectors up the top here. Now, I think TERRAONION, you know, you can't count on this, but TERRAONION are looking at sticking some sort of mod or something, a little PCB you could stick on there to allow you to link these up, you know, for the few games, things like League Bowling and that racing game that I forget the name of, so you can link them up. That might be a future option. It's just whether they can use these programming pins in some way. I suspect not. It depends, it depends where they're going and stuff. I don't think there'll be any way they can use those, but if they do, they'll be very pleasantly surprised. I'd probably buy the add-on there, and I could perhaps then link it up to my AES and play Riding Hero. That's the name of that game, I forgot. Riding Hero, with a link up or something. But yeah, so just moving around the board here. So we've got some flash ROMs here, look pretty big chips. And what I like about this, no BGA components. I hate BGA, I seriously do. There might be some underneath, we'll have a look in a minute. But yeah, I like this, the typical surface mount ones, because they're relatively easy to replace and stuff, although the solder pitch on here is very, very fine. It's also worth noting, if you get one of these like this, make sure you statically, discharge before you, handle the board and stuff. Although they did say that they've, designed lots of ESD protection and stuff in there. And some cart shells are coming out for these, incidentally. They're having them manufactured at the moment, and anyone who pre-ordered one of these, including myself, will get that cart shell for free. But it's only about 15 or 20 euros or something for the shell, so if you're going to buy one of these, I would recommend you buy that shell. It's a little bit of a shorter shell. I'll show it in a future video. It only sort of, I don't know, it comes down to about there. It's almost like a half-height MVS shell. But anyway, rambling aside, let's just move around the board. So I think we've got some these level shifters or something here, probably are. That's probably a level shifter, that's probably a level shifter, that's probably a level shifter. So that's nice as well. When you compare to some of the flash multi-carts, like 161 in one, 120 in one of the big problems with those, and I think it was Mike Moffat, was one of the first people to be critical of that aspect of those carts, and he's actually spot on, that they didn't use level shifters. So you got 3.3 volts and 5 volts intermingled. It's just a mess really on those multi-carts, whereas with this they've got proper level shifters, like you get on Everdrives and things as well. So it's a nice clean implementation that means that you've got the right logic levels at the right sides of the interface, 3.3 or 1.8 on this side, and your 5 volts just on your MVS edge there, so you're not putting undue stresses and things on the Neo chipsets and things like you do with the 120 in one, 161 in one, etc. Although those flash carts, they do work fine, but no one really knows when you're using those 161 in ones, 120 in ones, what's the long-term effects going to be on the Neo chipset. You might have a tendency to shorten the life on one or two of the chips on an MVS board, whereas something like this is just as good as an original cart. Got a couple of voltage regulators down here. I'm guessing because there's two, we're probably going to have a 3.3 and a 1.8 or something like that. It might even be a 1.8, 1.2. I honestly don't know. I could zoom in and have a look at that, but I'm not that bothered at this stage. So yeah, the lattice chip in the middle, I think is going to be an FPGA. It's very large, but it could be a CPLD. I always get those things mixed up. I really should look up the part number. If you want to just see it closely yourself there, I'll perhaps post a comment below, or someone else perhaps can, to determine whether that's a CPLD or an FPGA. We've got an ARM processor here. If I just rotate this round carefully, you'll see I've got an ST ARM, an ARM Cortex. Incidentally, I think that's the similar sort of the same family of chips that Bawak is looking at the moment. He's just posted an update on his channel, and I think he's just got an ST development board or something, and it was referring to the ARM Cortex series of chips. So I think that's probably going to be very similar. Not sure what we've got up here. No idea. A little 8-pin device, perhaps some sort of I don't know, I've got no idea. I don't even want to guess what that is. The boards are joined by these little interconnects here, so we'll just carefully just pull these apart. They come separated actually in the post when it's delivered, so you do have to join these up. There we go. So looking back at the top board, the final thing I didn't quite show there was obviously the micro SD slot there. So you stick all your games on a micro SD. I've got a 16 gig SanDisk there, as you can see. This is not the fastest. There are lots of different speeds, and these dictate how long it will take to load a game. Now when it comes to getting the games on there, you just basically take your main ROM set, run their software they provide you with, the utility. It'll scan through your ROM set and build a lot of ROMs. Now, I had all sorts of problems with different versions of Windows, and I'll talk a little bit about those later. I don't want to put people off. I just want to say also special thanks to Rot on the Neo Geo forum, and Razula and the few people there that were helping me in chat yesterday, as I had a few I had a load of problems while I was trying to get the software on here, and at the same time the cat was bleeding all over the place and I was in a bit of a state really, but those guys, the help they gave me on that forum was invaluable. So yeah, anyway, what we've got here now, so a load of bypass caps and things on the underside here, more level shifters, because obviously you've got connections on both sides, so you do need quite a few level shifters to get, you know, the relevant data onto these, in and out of these buses, and obviously the interconnect there, it's like a quite a low profile one, that. So that's it for that board. Let's just put that one down. Let's have a look at the bottom board. Almost like a mirror image of the top board really, which kind of makes sense because the boards are bound to be very similar. I think this one's just got more RAM, because you've got all the C-ROM chips, and there's typically quite a lot of those actually. Those are the chips that sort of, you know, there are more of them in number than any others on an MVS board or an AES board. So we'll start with the regulators and things again. We've got the interconnects here, 2 regulators again, I think 1.8 and 3.3. Level shifters, level shifters, level shifter, level shifter, level shifter, level shifter, I think. And then 4 of these large flash ROMs. It could be flash, yeah, it'd be flash ROM. Did I say RAM on the first board? The ROMs, the flash ROMs, because you program, you know, you select the game from the list like you do with an Everdrive. You know, you boot it up, gives you the list, you select your game, it programs it. That takes a period of time, which it's bound to do. It's probably using something like I2C or something, some sort of interface between the boards and things to the different chips and things. I'm not sure what's doing the programming. It could be that the ARM is doing the programming on the first board, because there's no other. Yeah, it's got to be, because there's no other like MCU or anything on here. So the ARM's probably doing the majority of the work. It might be using the, you know, switching these lattices in a certain way so that it can distribute the data to the chips. So they might be supporting the programming. I honestly don't know. But yeah, so four of these flash ROMs on that side. Let's have a look on the underside, and 2 more there. 2 more flash ROMs and another level shifter, I think. So yeah, it's really elegant, really nice, well manufactured boards and things. They're really clean and tidy. Silk screen markings are quite good and stuff on it. So I'll put this back together now. It's critical, obviously, you get these the right way round. I mean, obviously you can only join them up one way here. Just make sure you get your interconnects right there. Let's just carefully get this back in. There we go, that's that one. That's it. Yeah, you can only get these MVS boards one way up. You've got to put this arrow here nearest to the arrow on your case. So I think in my case, on my MV1, I've said it goes this way, like that, with the arrow being on the underside, you know, right next to where the arrow is marked on the my MV1, I've said. So this was one of the games I was testing last night. In particular, I was actually listening for the PCM sound issue you can get on an original cart of this, you know, because as you've seen in a previous video, I've got the original of this game, and there was a glitch related to the cap size. So that's not evident on here, you don't get the problem at all, and that is something that Razula checked previously as well, actually. He did talk to me about the different games that can suffer with problems on some of the multi-carts, and I pointed out which ones they were and where the problems were, and he, you know, he came back to me pretty quick actually and said, I can't detect any problems with sound at all. It's you know, it's just as good as original hardware. So to get back to the menu on these, the default button combination is A, D and start. So if I hold that down now, you'll see we get the Neo SD menu coming up here. It says it's reading the SD card. So we've got a list of games there. These are all the games I've got on this card now. As you know, just use up and down, scroll down, very much like the Everdrive. Now the amazing thing about this actually, I think, is how complete this is. You know, it sprung from nowhere, like say a month ago, and it's you know, it's the end-to-end quality of the experience of this product. It's not just how good the boards are and how good the hardware implementation is with regards to, you know, working with encrypted ROMs and things like that. You know, it handles every single game. I think there's only one game that I'm aware of that is currently being looked at, and that's a bootleg version of one of the King of Fighters games, I think, that uses some RAM on the board to store some sprite data or something, and like I say, they'll probably find a way to get that on here as well. to support that with the the FPGAs. But yeah, coming back to my original point, it's about completeness, the quality of this. If you look at the menu here, every attention to detail. You've got the little images down the left-hand side. They've done a preview for each one of the commercial ROMs there and bootlegs as well. So you've got, let's say, you go up and down the list using the joystick here. As you can see down the bottom, you've got the different coloured buttons there to indicate your options. So you've got A to load one, B for options. So if you select B there, for example, you've got boot mode, game, or menu. Not sure what that does actually. I've not tried that yet. But the boot mode goes into the game, or it goes into the menu. I think that means when you first switch it on, it might go straight into the menu. But yeah, we'll leave it in game. In-game trigger, that's the combination I just mentioned, AD and start to get out of the game back into the menu, just in a very similar, well, almost identical way to how it works on the MVS, the MVS 161-in-1. One thing I'm not sure about there is how that works actually. I think on the 161-in-1 it's hacked, they've actually hacked the ROMs, so each ROM I think has been modified to be able to look for that button combination to go back to the menu. Now, the way this works is the CRCs are identical when you boot the game, so it's not modifying the game ROM. So I don't know whether it's some sort of BIOS modification. Perhaps there's some of the BIOS loaded into workaround and there's a modification there to allow the AD and start to go back to the menu. Or I did wonder if there was some way of monitoring the control inputs from the cart. I can't see how you would do that. And you've got your data bus there, so I guess if you snooped the data bus and the address bus, you might be able to tell when the controller's been read. Perhaps that might, I don't know. It might be nice if someone like Rizzula or somebody posted what their thoughts are there, because I'm not sure how that's working. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm certainly curious. So you've got arcade mode, yes or no. I'm not sure what that does. I think maybe if you put it in arcade mode, I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate. I'll perhaps post some comments down below for that. So the other nice feature is the save / restore backup RAM. The MVS backup RAM, you've only got like 8 slots in there, so as soon as you get onto like your 9th cartridge, your 9th game, you've got you've played 8 different games, and then you play your 9th different game. The first slot, which had the first game that you played in there, is wiped over. So this is mega useful, and the way it works is every time you change the game, it backs up the save RAM for the current game that you've already got on the cart, and associates it with it, so sticks the link to it, so it knows exactly which backup RAM file to use. And then next time you load that same game, it loads the backup RAM back in. Now, one thing with that is I haven't got a battery on this board, so for me, it's I can't really use it properly at the moment, because what's going to happen is, if I leave my MVS off overnight, boot my this cart up here, change the game, first thing it's going to do is back up the SRAM and wipe over whatever it had previously. So because it's gone flat, it's going to back up an empty, uninitialized backup RAM. So I don't know whether it's going to be possible. I would like them to add an option so that you can change the mode there, so that you can actually invoke a save yourself directly when you want to do it, rather than have it all automatically only when you're changing ROMs. It'd be really nice if you had manual, like yes, no, manual or something there. And then if I just come out of that, if I can, how you get it? On here, maybe if I pressed select, because the moment does nothing, or start, it would maybe give me the option, do you want to do a backup? Do you want to save the backup RAM or load the backup RAM? That would be really, really nice. But if we just go back into the options again, what's the last one's UI sounds? So yeah, if you switch that off, it's not making a noise now. Switch it back on. We've got sound there, obviously version information there as well, so I'll look at that. It shows you serial number, and various versions of things that are on there. So come out of that, come out of that. So the other thing you can do is press C and it changes the filter. So you can see that sets filter shooter, and I can press D to choose the genre. So we've got like quiz games, fighting games, puzzle games, other action, beat 'em up, sports, driving, platformer, Mahjong, shooter again, I think. Yeah, it's gone round again. So C to change the filter again. What's that? Favourites. So you can mark games, as your favourite games, a bit like you can on some of the Everdrives. C again. We're back to the full list again. And obviously the D button there is how you add favourites. You can see the little heart icon there. next to your favourite games and stuff. So that's a really nice, quick, easy way of being able to filter down to the games you want to see. But it plays everything. It plays every single game in the library. This plays them, and it plays them exceptionally well. Like I say, things like Metal Slug X, the encryption on there, it works. It's amazing. I'm not sure if Metal Slug X. I think Metal Slug X is one of the ones that they've had to do a fix workaround at the moment, because the encryption on there, I don't think anyone's understood it fully. It's not being properly decrypted. Now they are working on that, and I'm sure they will do it themselves. They'll work out how it's encrypted and how to replicate that on the FPGA there. So I think that's the one exception out of all the games on there. That's the one exception where at the moment they've got a little fix. I think they're modifying the. In fact, we'll try that. Let's load that. You can see how long it takes. I think with this one, the CRC, it might show correctly. It might not. I'm not sure. I think they might be doing some sort of modification to the P ROM there on the fly. It's just a question of at what point that happens. But still, it's useful to see, for you to see the process here. So yeah, it's erasing, then it starts flashing. Now this game takes quite a while because this is one of the larger cards here. So I'll perhaps put a stopwatch or something, a time at the end of, perhaps fast forward through this loading process, just so you can get an indication of how long the longest game takes to work. But what I wouldn't want to do is put you off, because this is an example of one of the ones that takes the longest. We're talking 3 or 4 minutes perhaps, whereas most of the games on there are 20 or 30 seconds, which is absolutely nothing. The time just flies, it really does. I would say that's just over about 2 minutes actually. It's just near the end now, as you'll see. And the green LED flashes on the board whilst it's programming. As you can see, the game's up there now. So let's just hit start. Let's start the game here. Marker.
Mission 1, start.
So as you can see it here, it's spot on. Absolutely spot on. But what I wanted to do is just check the CRC of this particular game, because I think, like I say, this is the only one where perhaps the CRC might be different. You might say it's not good. Let's just see. I'm not sure. Be interesting just to see what this could be. Yeah, not good. There you go. And I think that's because, like I say, they're doing a patch on the fly for this one game, but they are working on getting this one 100% as well. And you've got to believe these guys, and I do believe them, because, like I say, the level of love that's been put into the design on this, the accuracy, because that's what I like to emphasise. It's about accuracy, and that's one of the things Razula kept reiterating. This is so accurate. This is more than we could have ever wanted as a community for the Neo Geo, because it's something, like I said, it's replicating the original hardware, precisely, which means you get a precise one-to-one representation when you play your game. It's exactly the same. You don't want slight differences and timing issues, etc., which can the sorts of things that happen when you start using the decrypted bootleg versions, because they are decrypted and stuff, and they are bootleg. But yeah, so all the other checksums and things on there are okay for that game, and every other game will give you a proper checksum. The checksum will always come back okay, because, like I said, just because of the way it's done. But if I skip out of that, now it's important to know, now if you switch the system off and on, this game just boots. You don't go into your menu. Now you might be able to change it so it goes into the menu. I think that was the option I showed you earlier, but it will just load the game. The game stays flashed, even when it's being powered off. It's it's non-volatile, so that's really cool. Now press AD and start. Let's just see. Give it a second. We're back to the menu again, and you can pick another game. So I'll perhaps just load 1 or 2 smaller games here that are, most of them actually are quite quick at loading. If we load, let's say, Crosswords. Now Crosswords 2 works on this as well, so let's give Crosswords 2 a go. Yeah, it's only been going about 20 or 30 seconds there, and as you can see, it's more than halfway through. It's nearly finished. But the SD card is important to get the best out of this. If you want to get shorter load times, a really high-speed SD card, or micro SD actually it is, working fine. Fantastic. So go back to the menu. Let's just go through a few more here, just to give you rough ballparks really of the sort of performance I'm getting. But yeah, no, I've not had a single issue. There are no problems with this at all. One thing I would point out is I think it really needs the shell, because just occasionally you get like, and it's hard to explain, but you get little particles, you just like little bits of line noise, you know, like little short strips of pixels, and maybe, I don't know, several pixels wide over the top of sprites when you first boot a game. But that only happens when you've been in the menu, and it only happens when the cart's sat a certain way. I think the cart position has something to do with it. I could be wrong, there might be a bug there on the MV1FZ, because one of the chaps on the forums found the same problem in his MV1FZ, that just occasionally with a specific game, when he's programmed it, then boots the game, he gets those little lines, and if he switches the power off and on, the lines are gone. So it's only something to do with the programming following booting the game. If you just boot the game from cold, you don't get it. And it is only on the MV1FZ. He's got 4 slot, not a problem at all. And Rizula's got a number of MVS boards, I think, certainly got 1F. And I think he's been testing and not had a problem. And obviously, you know, TERRAONION themselves were tested on various MVS boards and not had a problem. So yeah, I wouldn't let that put you off, because like I say, even though I have that on here occasionally, and I can't replicate it just now, but I might do in a minute. If I load Pocky in here, let's try that. I might be able to get it working, you know, show you the glitch with that. Let's give that a try. I will cut the load in here, but I'll put the load time up in a minute just so you can see how long it took. But this one does take a while because there's a fair few megabits. Right, so that's loaded, so let's have a look. Yeah, it's not doing it now, so it's really hard to replicate this problem. Let me try powering it off and on, see if that induces anything. I don't think it will do. And what we'll try and do is perhaps maybe go back to the menu again and then launch the game just to see if I can replicate it. I did capture some footage on my iPhone yesterday. I might just put a clip of that in here just so you can see what it looks like, just so you know I'm not talking complete rubbish here. Then this occasionally does happen, but it's very hard to replicate. It really is. Like saying, if you do get those little lines, the solution is switch it off, switch it on, and then they're gone. It seems to be when you've gone in the menu, like we've just done there, and then into the game, but it's not you can't replicate it every single time. It's quite tricky. Yeah, it's just not doing it. But you see, the other thing is, I did clean up my cart slot yesterday, after, you know, and I couldn't replicate it after I cleaned it up. So it could have just been a dirty slot. But yeah, anyway, in summary, it's a fantastic card. There's just a few other things I want to mention while we're here. One of them's the cost. These are pretty expensive. I think I paid just under €400 shipped for this. Now that's on a pre-order discount. You might still get that now, because I think that even though this is perhaps sold out, they're doing another batch, and it's perhaps still got that offer on. I think it should be jumping up to €429. So you might still have to pay for the shell separately, because I think they're only honouring the initial pre-orders there with a free shell. But you know, like I said, the cost of the shell was not a lot anyway. It's like 15 or 20 euros or something for a shell, and it's a custom shell. So, but you can also use a standard MVS shell, so you don't necessarily need to buy one from there. If you've got an old MVS shell, you could use that. So, also on the subject of cost, it might seem expensive, but not really when you compare to the cost of the games on the MVS anyway. You know, some of the games like Garrow and stuff can cost you £150 upwards and stuff, or some of the £200 or £300, the really rare titles. So actually, it's not. It's also interesting to speculate what effect it could have on the scene in general. You know, the cost of the original cartridges. Are people going to go out there and buy one of these carts and then start ditching their original MVS carts? I would say, yeah, one or two people will, but for the most part, I don't think so. Because you've got collectors out there. These are people that are really passionate about the scene. Yeah, they want something like this where they can play all the games in one place. For convenience more than anything, it means you're not putting wear and tear on your slots. Provided you're prepared to wait the number of seconds to load a cartridge. And that's, I'll just sidestep and just talk about that as well, the loading times. You know, some people are being really bitchy and kicking off going, oh God, you know, 2 minutes to load a game, that's ridiculous, blah, blah. Well, actually, no, it's not. You've got to look at how you use the system. You know, if you're one of these like aimless gamers who just like loads of ROM, 30 seconds later, let's load another game, 30 seconds later, let's load another game, you know, you're really not appreciating the system for what it is. You're not giving any quality time to the games. Typically, if I play a game on my MVS, I might have a session where I spend a few hours. I think, oh, I'll play on the AES, and I'll play, or the MVS, and I'll play 2 games in that time. You know, and each one will be 45 minutes to an hour on each one. So the thought of loading one of the longer, you know, one of the games that takes maybe 5 minutes, and there aren't very many. There's a few that take 4 or 5 minutes to load. It's not a problem. I'll just go in the kitchen, get a drink, you know, go and feed the cats or something while I'm waiting, come back in, it's loaded, and that's it, and that's my hour session set up for me. So it really isn't a big deal. But going back to what my original conversation point was a minute ago about the value of the original carts and things, are they going to start going down and we're going to start seeing loads of them become available? I don't think so. I think collector mentality, people want the original copies. I mean, you've seen the carts I've got here now. You know, I mean, I've got, just for example, I've got Cross Swords 2 from Raz there and Jeff. I've had the ROM for that for a number of months actually. I posted on the MVS forum a few times. No one would give me the ROMs. It was just like this wild goose chase trying to get them, and I didn't want to take the car apart and dump it, but someone kindly gave me a copy of those. So I've had those for a number of months. Now, I haven't gone away and produced, you know, repros, and I haven't got rid of my original car because I have no interest in that, you know. And I think most of the people in the scene are like that. They've got that same mentality that once they've got a car, it's, you know, it's beloved, it's part of their collection. So, and it's no different. You know, I've got this game up and running, as you saw earlier, on the Neo flash cart here. I've still got no intentions of getting rid of that original Cross Swords from Raz and Jeff. It's something I hold, you know, it's a high value item to me, you know, on sentimentality reasons really. And it's no different with any of the other games that I've got there. Even the cheaper ones like Digger Man, you know, it's just a clone that I made, and some of the boots that I converted, the Puzzle Bobble boots and things that I converted to Ragnar and Galaxy Fight. I ain't getting rid of them, you know, I like them. And the same with all the originals, you know, I've got loads of originals. I've got World Heroes 2 Jet there, I've got World Heroes 2 Perfect original. I've got all of the Real Bout games. You can see some of them there, got Japanese text. I think that one on the left there's Real Bout. That could be World Heroes actually, but one of the enders, and that's Real Bout 2, the newcomers I think, and the Gang, can't say it, down the bottom there. You know, I've got no intentions of selling them. Absolutely not. Yeah, they take up space, but if anything, you know, I want to buy a few more originals. Certainly the Metal Slug games. I don't think I've got an original Metal Slug actually in my collection. I've got a boot Metal Slug 1, but yeah, I'd like to get a full set of those. So I don't think it's going to have a massive effect on, you know, negative effects on the hardware, you know, the resale value of them. And we're not going to see floods of carts coming for sale, but we might do initially. I think as 1 or 2 people buy these carts, we might see some rare titles coming up for sale, but the prices are going to be the same unless the market gets saturated by loads of people deciding to sell off the collections. I don't see that happening. Let's start the game. I think those flickering pixels are back. This might give me a good opportunity to show you the problem. Yeah, they're flickering. I don't think you can see it. I can see it just near the top, near the count thing, and it's there. Can you see those flickering pixels? Let me just zoom a little bit. It's probably going to time out actually before I do it. See those little flickering lines? See, I get my hand on camera up here, flickering away. So there's the problem I was referring to before. It's interesting that it's come back on this game. It seems to be on the higher megapixel ones for some reason. Now, the interesting thing, if I just start this, I mean, the bars at the top there look okay, the transparencies, I think that's right. The game's working, it's just that minor graphical interference thing. But they can update the firmware on these, and we've got the lines back there as well again. So, I don't know. But like I say, what I do know is I wouldn't want this to put you off. So far, it seems that this is only evident on an MV1FZ, and like I say, all the games I've tried, you know, you don't really have this. If you do get the little glitch with the little lines there, you can switch it off and on, and it's all right. So, and it is still early days. Like I say, they will produce firmware updates and things for these. Yeah, in some ways, I'm glad that it's happened so you can see it. But in other ways, I'm a bit you know, it's kind of left a negative feeling, thinking, you know, I don't want to portray this in a negative light, because it's a great accomplishment, and I do think it could be, let's say, related to the lack of shell. I think if you get a shell on it, it might not do it. I don't know. I mean, I've just tried just supporting the boards while it's running, and it does seem to make a difference. It does look like noise. It looks like a little bit of noise somewhere. So, like I say, a firmware update could fix that. So whilst there's programming there, I just thought to show you, you can get that little green LED flashing while it's programming as it reads. I think the green indicates a read from the SD card, and the voltage there's a stable 4.97. It jumps up and down a little bit as it starts to do different stages, whether it's doing a raise or programming, etc. But not a lot, like, you know, a few millivolts or something. But it's also worth pointing out that, you know, it uses less power than the typical flash card. If I had like a 161 in here, that voltage would be like 490 or 491. It might even just be a little bit below 4.9, 4.89 or something with something like a 161 in one. Whereas it remains just under the 5 volt mark on this car. So, and it's the same with any of the originals. So this doesn't seem to use a dissimilar amount of current to an original car. It perhaps uses a little bit more. It's going to do because of the two FPGAs or CPLDs or whatever they are, the ARM processor. But the ROM, just because of the number of ROM chips, there's a lot less power consumed by the ROM. So it's probably about the same actually. So I'll program Alpha Mission 2 now, just so you can see one of the smaller games loading. I don't think this is tiny, it's just small, fairly small. But as you can see, that's actually pretty bloody quick. Obviously I'll fast forward this, but I'll put the end time when it's finished. Well, as you can see, that's working fine. So I'll just stick a credit in. Yeah, looking and sounding fine. It's a great shmup, this. I love this game. Let's try something else. Let's try a medium sort of size game. I think that's probably a good example. Aggressors of Dark Combat. Sorry, it's my cat knocking the table. So again, looks and sounds fine. Sweet. So just programming Strikers 1945 Plus here. This is a good example of how the sound is perfect. You don't get any of the problems that you get with any of the multi-carts, you know, like the 161 in one, 138 in one, 120 in one, etc. I might have mentioned that previously in this video, but I just thought to show this game because this is one of the games that, you know, if you play this on a 121 or a 161 in one on most MVS systems, you can hear shifts in volume, and I think it's bits shift in state because of like a timing issue related to one of the PCM buses. So I'll put the time up at the end of this just so you can see how long this game took to load. There we go. Stick a credit in. Yeah, this particular soundtrack normally will glitch out a fair bit on an unmodified 1381 or 161 in 1, or 120 in 1 in fact. It's perfect, as you can hear. So I'll load another early title here because this is going to be quite small. And while I'm here, it's worth mentioning, obviously, you can load the different versions as well, you know, so this is a really nice feature of this card, you know, you can load the AES version, which is subtly different, it's got the intro. In fact, let's do that, just so you can see the intro. It's exactly the same, it just has a bit of an extended intro compared to the MVS version. So yeah, really short loading time on that one. Yeah, I think you get the intro here. Right, let's start though. No problems again. So I'll load it okay. Let's stick a credit in, start it.
Round one, fight!
And if we come out of that and actually just reboot it, and I'll hold down ABC to go into Unibars, we'll just check the CRC. As you'll see, these all come back with you know, 100% OK CRC. So you know, there's no patching going on the fly, apart from, as I mentioned previously, on Metal Slug X, which, you know, as I say, they're working on you know, the decryption for that. So that should at some point maybe get fixed. But yeah, they all come back with good checksums. So it comes in an ESD safe bag. As I said, the boards are both separated, and I think they're wrapped in this anti-static foam here as well. And you also get a quick start reference sheet with it as well. It just explains how, you know, some of the basic functions here, the menu functions, you know, boot mode. Yeah, you can choose to boot directly into current loaded game or Neo SD menu when powering on. Yeah, I thought that's what that boot mode did. System mode, there's an arcade mode as well. What's that? Arcade mode. When this option is enabled, no micro SD is present in the card slot. The Neo SD menu will be completely disabled and region system mode changes. Because that's the other thing you can do with this, is you can change the region, a bit like you can on a Unibars. I'm not sure how you do that actually. Oh yeah, system mode. System mode is where you can choose which, whether it's MVS or AES, and perhaps the region. Oh, you get the region's a separate thing. And that's it really. So in summary, these are a great card. You know, you can have some teething problems to start with the software, you know, trying to get your main ROM set converted. You just got to make sure you've got the right version of the main ROMs. And there are plenty of places out there to get a current, you know, up-to-date set. I think someone on the forums posted they had a a 147 version or something. I think that worked okay for them. I did have some problems trying to get ROM sets to start, initially, because I think the version I had was a little bit older and some of the file names were not named correctly, and it was, squawking about things like that and CRCs. But if you get the right, an up-to-date set of good known working ROMs, you won't have a problem with it. I haven't yet had a chance to play around with. I think there's supposed to be some sort of utility that you can use to put your own, like homebrew and stuff on there. I don't know whether that's released publicly yet or not. I've just used like the Neo builder, the standard zip. I think it's like 1.02 is the version at the time of doing this video, which allows you to, let's say, point it at your main folder and it'll go away and sort of, build all the .neo files, because that's what they are. They're just .neo, and you stick them in the root of the micro SD there. As you've seen, you've seen examples of loading times. I'm actually very pleased with it. I know there's bound to be people kicking off, like say, going, oh, why is it so damn slow? Actually, it's not a big deal at all. It's just, let's say people need to learn how to play systems properly and not just jump in and out of games like, they've only got 30 seconds of time or something. It's, you've got to put some quality time aside. But yeah, it's a nice clicky feel when you push that card in and out. I like that as well. So in the next video I'll cover some of the issues I had and the resolution stuff, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that. I've got some ideas myself, like I say, I don't really want to talk about in this video, but I'll also be showing you the shell, and I might be able to show you some more examples of some of the other games and things running on here, if you're interested. So the other thing I want to mention before I go here is the support from the TERRAONION team, Neo SD, is absolutely fantastic. It really is. They're just so responsive, and they've been so supportive. As I showed earlier, there was the issue with the little lines. You got these little bits of lines over some games, and it seemed to be related to when you'd gone through the menu and then into a game, and that was reported to the Neo SD team, TERRAONION, on Monday, I think it was. It could have been Sunday. I think it might have been Sunday. They got a firmware update first thing Monday. It was like, first thing in the morning there was a firmware update out there, and the few of us that had that issue, we updated the firmware, problem gone away. So they hit the nail on the head straight away there, and the speed of the response was it was just amazing. Really, it was amazing how quickly they dealt with it. But also, I'm not going to cover it too much in this video. I will cover it in depth in the next video. I did have some problems with this where I had to do a few different firmware updates. Now, at one point, one of the firmware updates caused it to become so unstable that I couldn't navigate the menu. Now, the first thing that was going through my mind is, hang on a minute, if it's crashing every 2 or 3 seconds to the point where I can't even select a game, how am I going to update the firmware? And what happens if the firmware crashes part way through? Now, this was all, my thought process, but the Neo SD team, TERRAONION, they knew of this risk. They knew there was a risk that it could behave that way, but it isn't a problem. You can literally almost get one of these, like, seemingly in like a brickable state where, you can't navigate the menu, and it's, the 68K just keeps crashing all the time on the MVS. And they designed in, right from the start, a facility to allow you to do what's called a forced firmware update. So I had the first-hand experience of being able to do that a few days ago. And you put your firmware updates. They just go in the root of your SD. I think it's a .upd file, and obviously it's going to be signed. It's signed for the card you've got. Based on the serial number you've got. You've got to tell them which serial number you've got in order to get that particular patch. And then the way it works, I believe, and this is just me speculating, the MVS is not responsible for the update process. I think what happens is the board, the system's powered on, so this board has got power and ground. You've got clock going in. The ARM processor, one of the first things it's doing is looking at that SD. It finds the forced update. So regardless of whether it's booting on the 68K, it's forcing, an update to the rest of the board. I reckon you could almost, and this is just my speculation here, you could probably just wire up, VCC ground and the relevant clock pin, or pins, there might be one or more, and I reckon you could probably flash one of these without actually outside of an MVS using that forced update. It'd be nice if they could post a comment below to let me know, confirm either way whether that's possible. But the point I'm trying to make is that's just so elegant, such a really clean, secure way of doing this, so that, let's say you did get into a scenario where it seemed bricked. I suspect in most cases a forced update could probably fix that and bring it back. So that's really nice, and that was the only one I had, which was a forced update, but the other two updates, fine, no problems at all, no problems applying them. The firmware updates I applied took about 20 to 30 seconds, so that's useful to know. And if you ever do a firmware update, one of the things you want to make sure is you're not going to be powering it off and on while it's halfway through an update, because that could kill something, so there's a risk there. It might not do. It might be that the bootloader for the ARM and the bit that reading the micro SD can only be done with a certain type of update. It might never get updated, the bootstrap stuff there, the bootloader, I don't know. Or it might just be one of these where it only commits it once it's made sure it's verified and all the rest of it. I don't know. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon, and thanks to the TERRAONION Neo SD team for all the support they've given me over the last week with this.